Hey everyone, welcome to another YouTube painting process video. This time I'll be showing you the process for my Invisigal artwork from Dispatch. This one went a bit of the rounds on social media, so I figured might as well show you the process here. I will mention that the last 30 minutes of the process was cut off because the recording didn't work properly, but otherwise you can see what the rest of the process is. The last 30 minutes was just to refine the face and change the proportions a bit to make it a little bit more appealing. Anyways, let's get into the topic for today, and it's the idea of what is the hardest thing to draw properly. It's not going to be what you think it is. Now, if somebody asks you, honestly, what is the hardest thing to draw? Most people would have answers like hands, feet, some epic environment, and that sort of thing. And that's honestly pretty true. There are a lot of technical barriers when it comes to understanding this sort of subject matter. And I will mention that I screw up the hands and feet all the time, even to this day. So by no means am I calling those subjects easy to draw, but they're not the ones that I would say is the hardest to draw. It is a trick question in a way because I'm not only focused on the technical side of things. If you've been watching my other videos, you're probably gonna get the idea that I'm generally looking at something beyond the literal side of art. So while learning the technical art fundamentals will make it easier to draw these things, there will be some subjects which probably won't be easier as you get better at art. What am I talking about here? For me, the hardest subjects to draw is actually the stuff that is the simplest to draw. Now, how does that work? It's simple, really. The simplest subjects are very prone to being very boring, and it is very difficult to make the boring interesting. So beyond the technical aspects of drawing something, the hardest things to draw are trying to make the boring interesting as a piece of artwork. I'll give you an example that pertains to my style and my personal preferences for subjects. I find the hardest angle to draw for faces is actually a frontal facing face. The reason why is because it's very easy to make that frontal angle very boring to look at. The more limits you put on yourself, the harder it is to make it interesting, especially for subject matter that we're so used to seeing all the time, which is, of course, faces. How do you make it interesting when there's so many people who have already done it? This is rather a challenge that will be pretty hard in every case that you do it in. And the answers on how to make the boring interesting is going to vary largely depending on each individual piece. There will be a point when you hit your technical prowess for art, to the point where you're no longer worried about being able to draw something. You're more on the idea of how do you make it look appealing and interesting. So whenever you're given a task or you personally choose to do something that is fairly boring on the surface, your job is to somehow make that interesting to look at. And that can be very, very difficult. This is quite honestly why I still have a fascination of drawing portraits. Because even though I am still drawing the same subject matter over and over again, I have to vary them enough so that each of these portraits are going to be more interesting to look at and they don't stagnate between different artwork that I create. I'm constantly trying to be aware of where the face is, whether I can change the angles a bit, maybe change the colors to make it more interesting, having a different flow to it. All of that is in consideration when I'm drawing the same subject on paper. Yes, I can be one of those artists who uses the same colors over and over again, but I do my best to vary things up, and in doing so, that takes quite a bit of brain power in order to figure out how to change that up every single time. While, of course, juggling all the other aspects of art. So while you may look at what you're seeing now as fairly simple, it is actually not that easy. I'm constantly trying to figure out if there's a way to make her look interesting, and in doing fan art as well, I'm looking to extract the essence of the character and being genuine to them while being different from how other artists interpret it. It would be rather simple of me to just copy the official art for Dispatch, for instance, but it is different when you're trying to interpret it and bring it to your own style, and that's where the challenge comes in. You'll find that, again, once you get rid of the technical aspects of art, the ideas become the hardest part of drawing. But it's also the most interesting part of art. The technical side can be taught eventually, but how you interpret ideas, what your preferences are, what your pet peeves are, will all determine your decision making while you are painting, and that creates, of course, your style. So the challenges that you have during these artwork pieces will define you as an artist, because, like I said in other videos, a lot of artists can choose to draw Invisigal, but every single one of them will choose to draw her differently. And that's where the difficulty lies. How do you take the same subject matter and make it interesting while keeping true to yourself? That's something that you have to answer for yourself depending on your style, and that's why art can be very difficult even when you're drawing the same subject matter that seems simple. Anyways, thank you for watching. This is the final piece for Invisigal from Dispatch. Again, sorry, the latter 30 minutes were cut off here, so it might seem like a big jump. But otherwise, hopefully you enjoyed the video process here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.